Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Now, what shall we talk about?
Hello, my friends and fellow speakers. This is Brian, the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you today with a new video. This is a video I've tried to do it several times, and it's an issue that I've felt very strongly about and felt like we needed to discuss on my channel. This is not meant as a political video. There probably will be political ideas brought up in this, but I don't come at this from a political perspective per se. But as the title suggested, I want to talk to you about some things such as Black History Month, diversity and inclusion, and where we go from here. So I want to start out because February is Black History Month.
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
You know, that month where that 1 month out of the year where we celebrate Black history. I'm just curious, where's the White History Month? Where's the Asian History Month? Where's the Mexican History Month? Where's the English History Month? Where's the Caucasian European History Month? Where's the Chinese history? I mean, once you start going down this road, where does it stop? Where does this end? My problem with this isn't that I have a problem with black people in history or black history. My problem is that we segregate it out and we like focus in on it for a month. Why aren't we focused in on history in general every month? Why should we specifically target one group or one race of people for special treatment on a month?
What did you say?
I've never understood this. I don't get why we do this, why we segregate out their history as something separate. Black history is American history. Oh, sweetheart, you are so wrong. I am Bunny Fluffy Unicorn, and let me explain to you just how wrong you are. Oh my gosh, racist. You just don't get it. I mean, whatever. Asian history is American history. It's all American history. We should be celebrating it as American history, as Americans, not black history, not white history, and when I ask things like that, people will call me racist. Well, white history, every month is White History Month because the white people dominated everything. Really? No, that's not how that works. Once you start separating out groups for special treatment and segregating them off for different this or different that, you make them separate. You make that out to be something else other than the norm, than what just is. Yeah, fluffy bunny unicorn hair again. You should just stop talking, because you make me ill. I mean, black people have contributed to our society throughout its entire history, in various different ways, through scientific achievement, through, most of them came here as slaves. And name another country where they've actually been able to prosper the way they have. I mean, you go to Africa and look at the black people in Africa. They are much less well off than even poor black people in America. How dare you? So, I mean, and I'm not saying slavery is okay. I'm not saying that justifies slavery. There is no justification for slavery. What I'm saying is, don't separate people out. Don't try and group off this group and this group and this group. And why are we doing that? I mean, it's offensive that this kind of thing is being allowed in our society, that people aren't just incorporating Black history as American history. I don't want a White History Month. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't want an Asian History Month. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't want a Mexican American History Month. I just want everybody to be included in history. I don't think we need to call out blacks specifically for historical achievements, because all historical achievements are worthy of note. Whether they were good or bad. You see, that's the problem. When you start quantifying what history is better than other history, that's where you have a problem. History should be told in its entirety. The good, the bad, the ugly, the unfortunate, the sadistic, the terrible, the amazing, the wonderful, the fantastic. It all should be told, and it should be told through the perspective of what really happened. What really happened? What were the views of the time that allowed this stuff to happen? And what can we learn from that? And where can we go? And how can we be better? And what can we learn that we need to keep with us throughout history, and what we need to get rid of? And when you separate out historical events like this and make it just Black history, you minimize that. What only we can only celebrate Black history in February? What? Why not celebrate Black history every month, as we celebrate all history every month? That's my point. Don't separate it out. I would be offended if I was a Black person as a Black History Month, because of that very thing. Oh, what? We only get to celebrate our history once a month or once a year? Well, everybody else, Asians and Asians and every other racial group and religious group and ethnic group, they can celebrate their history all the time, but we get 1 month. It's not a good idea. It's a bad idea. It's this kind of nonsense needs to stop. The segregation and separation of individual groups for special treatment or negative treatment or whatever, it needs to stop. Okay? It's not a healthy thing to do in our society. And I don't know. I was listening to a live stream the other day with Jane Theory, somebody I follow. She's really great. And the topic got brought up about Walt Disney, and it was Walt Disney racist because of stuff that he put in his cartoons. Were the cartoons themselves racist because there's pre-Civil War Black imagery, and it was something I made comments on, and Jane Theory responded. But I hate discussions like that because it's so limited on what you mean. Because I said that Walt Disney was a product of his time, and she didn't really agree with that, which is fine. But she kind of said that that's not okay because this was in the 1900s, and that's not an excuse because anything after 1900, well, that's product of their time is not an excuse. And I didn't say that he was a product of his time as an excuse. I meant everybody is a product of their time. in 100 years from now, those people are going to look back on us and go, oh, look at what they did. Look at what they were doing. They were separating themselves out. They were condemning white people like they were the worst group out of every other group. I mean, who knows what the future people are going to look back on us and judge us and condemn us for the values and beliefs of their time. It is wrong to not understand that everybody and every group is a product of their time. It is kind of held to what the beliefs that were going on during that time were. I mean, during those times, there was still segregation. Walt Disney was born in 1901. So, I mean, it's been over 100 years since Walt Disney was born, and things have changed a lot. Now, some of the imagery, like people say that Song of the South was racist. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. When I grew up hearing the story of Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and Brer Fox and all those things, I never saw it as a black versus white thing. I just looked at it as a story about a rabbit. That's all it was. There's even the story of the tar baby. Now, apparently that's a racist thing, but like the way it's used in the story, it was not a racist thing. It was an actual baby made out of tar that they used to trick Brer Rabbit. I had the book, the Walt Disney book of the story when I was growing up. And I never sat there and thought, that equals black oppression. Black oppression. And my parents never did. My parents never said, Brian, this is a symbol of black oppression and systemic racism. You have to teach racism. You have to teach hate based on this characteristic or that characteristic or this or whatever. I don't know how many of you have seen the musical South Pacific. I know. I just outed myself as gay. But no. There's a song in there that they sing. It's called You Have to Be Taught. And it talks exactly about this, that you have to be taught to hate. You have to be taught to treat people differently. You have to be taught. You have to be carefully taught. That's what's in the song. You should go, if nothing else, go and listen to that song. It is fantastic to describe how racism and bigotry and any kind of phobia, homophobia, transphobia, whatever, that's how that begins. You have to be taught that stuff. That isn't just an inherent thing. You don't just pop out of your mother's womb and go, I hate this group. I hate those epithet, whatever. No, that's something that's taught to you from the time you grow up. And you're a product of the time. I'm a product of the 70s and 80s. That's when I grew up. That's when I saw everything happening that I saw. And that has very much shaped my view of the world today. Walt Disney was not a racist. He was showing imagery that was current for the time. That was acceptable at the time. It wasn't based on a racist sentiment. Now, for us to come up to 100 years later, or 80 years later, or 50 years later, or whenever those cartoons were made, they say that the crows in Dumbo now are racist. You know what? I never thought those crows were racist when I was growing up. I didn't see those crows as black people. I just saw them as crows that were singing and making fun of an elephant with big ears. That we shouldn't make fun of other people based on attributes or anything like that. That's what that song taught me. That's what those stories taught me. Don't make fun of people. Don't treat people differently. I never saw those crows and went, that's a racist sentiment. I thought it was a great song. Well written. I loved Dumbo when I was growing up. But now I'm told it's racist and I'm racist if I like it? You have to be taught to hate. You have to be taught that something is something for it to actually stick with you. So all of this, this systemic racism nonsense, America is not systemically racist. If it was a systemically racist country, we would look very different. Okay, we would have purged everybody who wasn't white, Caucasian. We would never have accepted people from other cultures. But that's not the vision, and that's not the soul and spirit of America. America took the best of everybody and incorporated it into ourselves, forming something new and unique. We used to be the melting pot where people came here and they gave up the cultures where they came from, but incorporated the best things about those cultures into our culture. But they stopped being Italians. They stopped being English. They stopped being Mexicans. They stopped being Nicaraguans. They stopped being Swedish. They stopped being African. And they just were Americans. People used to come here to be Americans. Now they come here to be African Americans and Mexican Americans and Chinese Americans and Japanese Americans. And anytime you put that qualifier in front of American, you lessen America. You minimize those people, you minimize their contributions, and you separate them as something other. We should all just be Americans. That's it. We should all just be human beings. There is only one race, the human race. And the rest of that nonsense needs to go away forever. No more Black History Month, no more this month, no more that month. Humanity. As Marley said in A Christmas Carol, mankind should have been my concern. That's where people get messed up. Is they start trying to identify and quantify themselves into little identity groups. And this identity politics thing, all it does is tear us apart and destroy us as human beings. And it makes everybody that's not in our group other, outsiders. And it fosters and contributes to that hate. We're focusing on all of this meaningless garbage, and it's sneaking into our companies and our corporations and our lives. It's sneaking into our everyday lives where we're being told. I mean, we're seeing it in churches talking about diversity and inclusion. My faith, for the first time ever, the leadership of our church has been talking about racism and how we should watch out for racism. And I'm like, out of all the faiths that I know of, ours is the least problematic about that. And I'm just like, what the heck are we talking? What? I'm like, that's implicit in the teachings of Jesus Christ. You don't need to talk about race, because if you're living the principles of Jesus Christ, there is no such thing as racism and isms and phobes and all this stuff. You love everybody. You love the sinner, hate the sin. That's what Jesus Christ taught. And I was just like, why are we talking about racism? I'm just like, And it was because recently the leadership of our church had met with the NAACP, a horrible organization that tries to force and push racism into everything. There's so many groups out there that have a vested interest in continuing this racist theme. People like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, the NAACP, the Black Caucus in Congress. I'm just like, is there a white caucus in Congress? Is there an Asian caucus? Why is that okay? Sorry, hit my Yoda. It's not. There shouldn't be separations by race for this. It shouldn't be okay for a white caucus. It shouldn't be okay for a black caucus. It shouldn't be okay to separate yourself out based on race and separate everybody else. Can white people be a member of the Black Caucus? No? Guess what? That's racism. That's racism. Like segregating yourself out and stopping other people from being a part of you based on race is, by its very definition, racism. But why is it okay when it's some other group being racist, but it's not okay if white people are racist. It's not okay when anybody's racist. That should be self-evident. That is just something that should be simple. Racism in any form by any group is wrong.